another car video. I don't know if anyone's watching this, which is kind of like a weird, like, it's like you're not talking to yourself, but you kind of are talking to yourself, because like there is potentially, like, on another channel I had a video kind of go viral, so like I made it before I had any viewers or anything, anyone watching, so I just kind of made it into the, like, put it out there. And so maybe there's someone watching this, maybe there's not, but I just want to talk, like, for people that are first getting diagnosed with BPD, you know what I mean? I remember when I got diagnosed with BPD, at first, it's almost like a relief for some people, and I get that. Like, it's like almost like, okay, my thing was like, people are like, oh, you're anxious, or you're depressed, or you have relationship issues, you have attachment issues, but it's like, it never really fit. Like, it's like there was a piece missing, like there was all these puzzle pieces and they didn't go together. But when you like learn about BPD, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an extreme fear of people abandoning me. I have, all my relationships are volatile. Anyways, all my relationships are volatile. You know, I have like fear of abandonment, like crazy. Like, I'm calling my family and my parents and like, oh my gosh, are you gonna abandon me? Are you like looking, like all these symptoms of BPD? And like once you're like, oh my gosh, it's like one thing. It's almost like now, like, oh my gosh, there's a word for what I have. It's almost like if you're seeing the world through black and gray every day, and everyone's like, oh, you know, it's just this, it's just this, it's just this, and then you meet another person that's like, I have the same thing, and you're like, oh my, like, I'm not alone in this. And I think it's just a natural evolution. Like, when you first get it, you know, people can say, oh, they can use it as a crutch and say, well, you know, I treated you this way just because I have borderline personality disorder. And I understand that and sympathize with that. Borderline personality disorder is like, there's no way to describe it. It's like basically a condition that can force you to act out something that you don't want to do to a person that you love. Whoa, you fell down. Can make you act out something that you don't want to do to a person you love and hurt someone you love just because you're scared of getting hurt. It's just crazy, and it's horrible, and you can feel empty and have extreme emotions, and it can go along with panic attacks and fear of abandonment, and it can sabotage your relationships. I get it, it's horrible, so it's easy to use it as a crutch, but I feel like sometimes that, or definitely not sometimes, it can impede progress, because like the more you say, oh, it's just because BPD, or, you know, I did this because I have BPD, the less you're taking ownership. And I think this is something I struggle with too, but I know it's something I struggle with more in the beginning. It's like, I know some things you can't change. There's that quote, like, accept the things you can't change and then change the things you can, or whatever. But, and like, I'm not convicting you or condemning you for anything. If you have BPD, you're already like that's enough. You already like get my, I don't know, hug, honestly. Like, you get hugged. Like, I know how it is. But like, the problem with like using it as a crutch is like it can impede your progress. But at first, I think you should be able to just kind of like take a quiet, you know, acceptance of that relief. Like, yeah, there's a word, there's a name for my condition. Obviously, you don't want to be like the label, and you don't have to adhere to all of the, you know, symptoms. I think it was 9 symptoms in the DSM of BPD. You don't have to have all 9, so don't make yours, like, you know what I mean? But like, when you first get diagnosed, my thing was like, oh my gosh, I read all these books, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what everyone thinks. Oh, this is your intrusive thoughts talking, or whatever. But like, you're like, this is a life sentence. Like, I was like, oh my, like, okay, well, I guess I'm never gonna have a relationship. I'm never gonna have a normal family. I'm never gonna have a job. I'm never, like, it's just like your thoughts spiral out of control. But honestly, over time, like, this is the craziest thing. And I know people have BPD in their older age and stuff, but a lot of people that get diagnosed with BPD, they fit like late teenager to early 20s. You know, you're having relationships, you know, you're more open, and you're like learning about all these things, and you're learning about yourself and your attachment patterns and everything. And like, honestly, I think like just getting out of that period and moving through that section of your life, you know, if you do get a stable partner, it can always, you know, heal your condition. I know everyone's fortunate enough to have a partner who understands their BPD and can help them, like, you know, I do love you, I'm not going to leave you. But like, just waiting time in your life, waiting for like a new season of change, it literally, like, you heal like automatically. Like, where you're at probably when you get diagnosed is like probably really bad, and you're like extreme, and it just naturally, like, there's nothing you can do to make it not go down. Even if like, it's just, I don't know, it's just like, I guess it's like fortunate for human beings, but that's just the way it is. When you have anxiety, even on like a micro level, you have a panic attack, and what happens is you don't stay have a panic attack for the 20 years. But it goes down, and it's the same thing on a macro scale. Like, when you, like, your BPD is really bad, it's always naturally going to get better. And like, the thing about BPD is, I feel like a lot of times, you know, like, you feel like almost like, oh my gosh, I can't change the things, or I'm stuck in this way. But like, honestly, so many things. I've changed so many things. You will literally make so much progress that you literally forget that you used to act that way. Like you're like, oh my, like you can't even remember. Like something reminds you that I used to be upset if they didn't text back after 15 minutes. They don't text back for 3 hours now, and I'm like, oh, she's probably asleep. It's fine. So like, literally, you're gonna make so much progress that you're not even gonna remember like what it was like to be in that certain way. And there's some things that are gonna be more enduring, you know what I mean? Depending on your traumas and your childhoods. BPD, it's like they say there's no cure, you know, when you look it up on the internet, but there's no cure for anything. There's no cure for the human condition. Like everyone's gonna pass away one day. There's no cure for all these things that we treat and that we can improve on. There's no cure for like getting in shape. You always go to the gym and keep working out so you can stay in shape. It's the same thing with your BPD. You have to like maintain it, you know what I mean? But that's not to say like you don't work on it. That's like saying, okay, telling people, you know, if you go to the gym and you work out and get in shape, if you stop going to the gym, what happens? Your body's gonna go back to normal, but people still go to the gym and work out. Why? Because that's just the way, that we're humans. That's just the way it is. So like, the one thing is never be discouraged. It's not over until it's over. Like honestly, like, you know, I can think of extreme cases of like I used to cry about one thing that bothered me so much, and now I don't even like, doesn't even cross your mind. That's how much progress you'll make. Like if you actually like, one of the biggest things is like, okay, the biggest like thing is like, you'll see the people that make the least progress are the ones that aren't aware of their symptoms, or like they aren't aware. Okay, so it got interrupted, but what I was saying is like, basically like people who are in denial of their symptoms, or who like don't have the perspective to see them, like that's where I see like people that don't make the most progress. Like, and from personal experience, like if you're not willing to accept that you are the problem, then you're not going to make any change. And it's not like people with BPD, it's like, okay, you had a horrible childhood where you probably had parents sometimes, not in all cases, but you had parents who didn't treat you right, or you lived in from abuse, or you had horrible relationships, and like you had this horrible, hard time already so far in your life from this point up until now, from that point up until now. Your whole life has been, you know, kind of harder than the average person, but you still have to say, okay, well, I can't help it that happened to me and it's horrible, but the more that I can say like now, even though you're not, it's like what that all goes into who you are now, the more you can say like, okay, well, I have to take responsibility for my actions. So yes, I'd like to blow up on them or ignore them or ghost them or just get rid of them because that's, you know, what my inner child's telling me to do. It's like, okay, that's still me doing that, even though I had a hard childhood. So like, that's just like, the more you can take ownership of yourself, which can be such a liberating and fun, like, and meaningful work. Oh my gosh, it keeps falling, bro. This is crazy. All right. The more you can do that, the better you'll be, I feel like.